It is Thursday. It's just after 3, and that means it's happy hour for Ron and Dave and McKenna in the background. So, according to our name of our podcast, Happy Hour, we have a drink in our hands. So, we'll start it off with a cheers. We'll end with a cheers. Cheers to you, Ron and McKenna.
Cheers to both of you and everyone else.
Well, thanks for joining us. We're live. It looks like we don't have any viewers yet. So we'll just we'll warm up. We'll warm up our vocal cords and wait for some listeners before we get into it. But Ron and I go live every week, except for last week. I think Ron, you told me 2 weeks ago that we had done 51 podcasts.
That's right, in a row.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wouldn't say in a row because we skipped one when we went on that cruise. So almost in a row, but this is
we did too.
David,
we just did we did a 20-minute one from the Cabana studio before the little dancers started singing.
We did, but I don't think we ever posted it because middle of the way through, we used our phones to record the podcast, and one of them was on a gimbal and the battery shut down and the format changed and all that. So we did skip one. So, but this is our 52nd happy hour podcast. So it's our 1-year anniversary. Congratulations, Ron.
Yeah, this just seems like yesterday.
Oh, I kind of lost your volume there. I'll keep going. Maybe it was on you or McKenna. Check Ron's settings. But we're Ron and I, we go live every week. Excuse me. We're going to chat for roughly the next hour. And the format is we've usually got 3 main meaty topics, and they're quite often mortgage, housing related. And then we usually have about 4 rapid fire topics that we try to breeze through. We've got charts, we've got graphs, we've got data, we've got some fun topics. And usually I'll kick it off with a From the Gut, which is a 7 to 10 minute long monologue from yours truly, where I just talk about stuff from the gut. But before I get to any of that, if you notice the t-shirt I'm wearing, I'm going to remove my microphone for just a second. It says loan officer, and it's designed what is it? Your local loan officer at your service. So it's designed after like a garage, repair shop, mechanic type t-shirt. McKenna, if you pull up the graphic, I've got a QR code. We've got a ton of t-shirts on there. The QR code sends you to this specific t-shirt, but we've got a bunch of other t-shirts on there, and they're available at littlenessy.com/store. Ron's been trying to encourage me to design more t-shirts, but I just can't seem to find the time. But maybe I'll outsource that kind of stuff. But I think ChatGPT or AI is the last place I would use to design a t-shirt. I love AI, love ChatGPT, love Claude, where Ron and I are using it to build a bunch of stuff. But the toughest time that I have just in my head is when it comes to the creative work, design and video, where I've just got a mental block still around some of that, not all of it. But let's get into today's topic. We're going to kick it off with a From the Gut. And as you know, unless you've been living under a rock, the World Cup ended on Saturday. Sunday. I don't remember. I think it was Sunday, but it ended. So it was Sunday. So I've got a business lesson, but I'm talking about the World Cup and specifically Argentina. And if you don't know what that image is, I will explain it when I get to the From the Gut. But bear with me. There will definitely be a business, a social media, a loan officer, real estate agent lesson in there. Then we're going to move to our main topics. Ron, you want to lead the way on these?
Absolutely. The first one, not the best place for your money. This is a theme that cycles up when the stock market's up and housing is flat or down. We'll cover it from a couple of different angles. You know, we've been in this cycle a few times, so we're going to attack this misconception. Foreclosures are climbing. We're going to kind of debunk this a little bit. Just try to fight the doomsday headlines. This is a really interesting, the theory is that as we get older, that we downsize or move into assisted living or to retirement homes. And the trend is the exact opposite. Retiring seniors are actually upsizing, which is really interesting.
And those are our three main topics. And then, like I said, we'll have, I believe, 4 quick rapid fire topics, and we'll end with a tech tip of the week. But without further ado, let's get to this week's From the Gut. All right. So, like I said, the World Cup ended last weekend. Thank you, McKenna. It was Sunday. And boy, oh boy, do I have some thoughts about it. And I'm sorry to use the World Cup as a second time, but this one has a totally different lesson than my first one, probably about 5 weeks ago, maybe six weeks ago, when I talked about the Tartan Army, which is the name of the Scottish football fans. So Argentina lost in the final, and I've been thinking about it, not simply because they lost. Teams lose, even great teams lose. And side note, I've never watched as many matches as I did this year. It was by far my favorite World Cup of all time. I'm almost 50 years old, and evidently, I think the world agrees with that. But what stayed with me is the way Argentina appeared to lose and what it may have cost them beyond the trophy. Many of you know that I grew up in the UK, where football wasn't some sport people briefly tuned into every 4 years. It's part of their culture, and that's true for almost the entire world, the part of their everyday life. And I still remember watching Argentina play England in the quarterfinals of the 1986 World Cup. It's one of the most infamous moments in World Cup history. Diego Maradona, was one of the greatest players to have ever lived, and he played for Argentina. And in the final minutes of that match, he chased the ball into the penalty area inside the 18-yard box alongside England's goalkeeper, the great Peter Shilton. The ball was about 8 to 10 feet off the ground, and Shilton, the goalkeeper, jumped and reached up to clear the ball with his hands. Now, Diego Maradona, who was about 8 inches shorter, reached up with his left fist and punched the ball over him into the goal. A handball, and the officials missed it. The goal stood. There was no VAR at the time, which is when the referee can pause the game and watch the replay to make sure that they made the right decision. We've had that in American football forever, but it just recently, in the last 8 years or so, made its way into soccer or football. Ron, have you heard of this instance, what I'm talking about?
No. And David, let me
Okay.
just confess, I watched less than 1 second of the World Cup.
Okay. I've got a short 20-second clip of that video of this goal by Diego Maradona. McKenna, go ahead and play it. There's no audio to it. So this is Diego Maradona in blue, Argentina against England. And here we go. Goes up in the air. Maradona goes up, heads the ball, evidently, but a closer shot shows he clearly used his fist. So Argentina eventually won that match 2-1 and knocked England out of the World Cup. Maradona, he later described it as being scored partly with his head and partly with the hand of God. And that phrase, the hand of God, is a phrase that's known all over the world. Probably not here as much in the USA, but pretty much if you say the hand of God in soccer terms, everyone in the world knows what you're talking about it. But after that goal, 4 minutes later, and I promise you there's a business lesson in here, but 4 minutes after that goal, he scored one of the most brilliant goals, one of the most brilliant moments in the history of the sport, carrying the ball past several England players and scoring what became known is the goal of the century. So think about that. Same player, same match, two goals just 4 minutes apart. One moment remembered for extraordinary brilliance, and the other remembered for cheating. And nearly 40 years later, people still talk about both. Now, fast forward to this World Cup, the biggest World Cup ever, 48 countries and 104 matches. More than 6.5 million people attended the tournament with stadiums filled to near 100% capacity almost every match. And when Spain beat Argentina in the final, nearly 63 million people in the United States watched it. Soccer has never had that kind of audience in America before, but the statistics aren't really what I'll remember. What I'll remember is watching millions of people change the way they viewed entire countries. Americans fell in love with Scotland's Tartan Army. People admired the Japanese supporters, the Norwegian fans, and so many others. And at the same time, visitors from around the world came here carrying their own assumptions about America. Some people expected violence, division, hostility. Then they actually met us. They sat beside us, they shared meals, they traveled through our cities, and suddenly social media was full of videos from people saying, "This isn't what I expected." Americans have been incredibly kind. The real experience was completely different from the version I'd been shown on the news. That may have been my favorite part of the entire tournament. Millions of people changed their opinions, not because someone argued with them, not because someone posted a statistics, but because they experienced people for themselves, which is why Argentina surprised me so much. While so many countries seem to leave this tournament with their reputation enhanced, Argentina, at least in my eyes, left with less than they arrived with. Now, to be clear, this is my opinion. I'm not talking about the Argentinian people. I'm not talking about every supporter, and I'm certainly not pretending every player on the team is a bad person. I'm talking about how I experienced that team over the course of this tournament. There were controversial calls that seemed to go their way. There were over-the-top theatrics, the exaggeration, the constant fouling. Argentina committed 111 fouls across 8 matches, and that's more than any other team in the tournament. In the final alone, they were credited with 25 fouls. Then came the tackle that received a red card and sent a Spanish player literally flipping through the air. Then there was the confrontation after the final whistle. A bit of a minor fight broke out, and possibly the biggest thing that hit me was when the players turned their backs while Spain lifted the trophy. And FIFA has now actually opened an investigation into the post-match incidents, and even Argentina, one of their assistant coaches, he publicly apologized for his own role afterward. And through all of it, and I keep promising there's a business lesson coming here. I promise there is. Through all of it, I kept waiting for Messi, arguably one of the greatest players who has ever lived. He's their captain, their leader, the one person who had earned the respect to calm everything down. Maybe he did things privately that I never saw. Maybe there's context I don't know. But from where I was sitting, I kept waiting for someone to say, "This isn't who we are." And I never saw that. That's what disappointed me the most. Not the foul, not the red cards, not even the confrontation. It was the absence of leadership. Because greatness isn't only about what you can do with a ball at your feet. Leadership is what you do when emotions are high, or when your team is losing control, and when the entire world is watching. And that's when it hit me. This isn't really about soccer. It's about reputation. because reputation isn't built during the easy moments. It's revealed during the difficult ones. We spend so much time talking about brand or brands. We obsess over logos and colors and websites, social media and advertising and how everything looks, but that's only a part of what makes up your brand. I've seen over the years where people say those things aren't your brand, which I disagree with. They are most definitely part of your brand, but there is more to it. There's your reputation as well, which is shaped by your behavior. It's how you treat a client when the transaction becomes difficult. It's how you respond when an employee challenges you, or how you handle a mistake. And it's also how you behave after you win. And here's the uncomfortable part. People don't always average out every experience they've ever had with you. Sometimes one moment becomes the moment. It could be one phone call or one email or one social media post. Years of work can build a reputation, but a few minutes can completely redefine it. Maradona proved that in 1986. 4 minutes, one act of brilliance, one act of deception. Both still remembered almost 40 years later, but I'd argue that the moment of deception has overshadowed his moment of brilliance. And I think this Argentinian team reminded me of that all over again. That's what made this World Cup so fascinating to me. Millions of people walked away thinking differently about Scotland and about Japan and about America. And for me, about Argentina, none of those opinions changed because of marketing or uniforms or slogans. They changed because of behavior. And that's true for countries, it's true for businesses, and it's true for every one of us. At the end of the day, people won't remember what you called yourself. They'll remember how you acted when the moment mattered most. There's your From the Gut for this week.
David, this is my favorite part of our podcast. I just get spellbound listening to you on your From the Gut, and it was another fantastic job. And the video assets were awesome. I'm trying not to be, typical American, because I was going to share my insights and opinions about the World Cup without ever having actually watched 1 minute of it. So I'm a refrain. But as an American, I feel it's my right. And I feel informed because I've read at least 3 headlines. So I was going to comment on how leadership can also be, revealed with poor leadership. And I was going to reflect back on the English head coach, but having not watched a single minute, I probably shouldn't do that. Instead, when you talk about brand, and I'll align with you completely, when brand fractures and you can't really repair it, is when trust is lost. And trust is lost when promises aren't delivered. And let's say Massier, he has a brand image of being a certain way, of being a leader, being an upstanding person and all these things. And when he doesn't show up, trust is broken. He's like broken a promise. And it's no different when a loan officer or a real estate agent says, hey, I'll get back to you by the end of the day with your quote or your proposal, your information. And we don't get back to them. Well, we've just broken trust, which has really fractured our brand. And so it totally resonated with me, David.
Yeah. McKenna, you were pretty into the World Cup, and we've gone way over on this. We need to extend the time allotment that we assign ourselves for From the Gut.
Wait, this is McKenna, make a whole show From the Gut. I'll sit here, I'll drink and listen to From the Gut. I'll even bring I'll get some popcorn. It'll be great.
McKenna's like a pretty accomplished public speaker herself. So we're actually thinking about introducing another segment into the show called McKenna's Minute. She's a great public speaker, but McKenna made a comment to me as we were watching one of the last games. And McKenna, I'll let you say what you said and then give us any thoughts on what I talked about in that From the Gut.
Yeah, so this year, not calendar year, but year in like days, has been the most that I have ever watched sports in my entire life. I've never been interested in it. But now I'm dating a football player. So I
American
go
football.
American football. And so I go to watch his games. The first game that I went to, Dad, you came with me, and we were sitting next to each other, and I was like, "Dad, what's going on? How do you play how do you play football?" And so anyways, I've also been pretty locked in for the World Cup. So as we were watching one of the last games, I was just sitting with my dad and I was like, "Dad, I definitely like soccer more than I like American football. I think it's significantly more interesting than football." But it definitely has been interesting. It's the most in tune that I've ever been into any World Cup as well. I've never really cared. Sports just isn't my thing. But it has been super fun to watch, and I'm also on social media a lot, and it's very, very fun to see all of like the people coming in from all over the world experiencing like Waffle House for the first time and loving it, and just loving the people and the culture and seeing it. And so I think overall it went really well, and so I was so happy to see that. And then of course, um, people on the Argentinian team, uh, did what they did in the final, and it just made me roll my eyes. Like, come on, guys, get it together. I understand it's a big deal, but like, have some decorum. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it
David,
was yes.
if we introduced, McKenna's, her space here, we'll have to call it like a sailor rant, because and we'll have to get our fingers on the beat button. And how do we do that? How do we do it? She's the one controlling the board. How do we get a beeper?
She doesn't control the beeper. That's me. I've got the beeper at my right hand right here. So
We'll have to
what
put a
the
5-second delay.
what's
Let
that?
me talk
David,
about HOAs.
we'd have to have a 5-second delay. We could just,
Yeah.
get her going on a rant and do a little delay so
Yeah.
we can beep her.
Yeah. Yeah. If we do introduce McKenna's Minute, a section of the podcast, she's going to be dropping and stuff like that. So we'll have the sensor beep ready to go.
I
But
don't
let's
know
move
what you're
on.
talking about.
Yeah, let's move on. But at the beginning of the show, I did kind of talk about this T-shirt that I'm wearing. McKenna, if you pull the graphic up again, if on our website, littlenessie.com, we've got a store. And we've got a handful of T-shirts that are loan officer centric. It doesn't matter what company you're with, where in the country you are. There's some fun T-shirts. That QR code is going to send you to that specific T-shirt. But if you want to see them all, go to littlenessie.com/store. This one's designed after like a mechanic style. It says what is it? Your local loan officer at your service. So we've got some fun T-shirts there. We're going to be adding more. I've been keep saying that, and I haven't. But there's about 15 fun loan officer T-shirts on there. So check those out. But let's get to our first main topic. We are talking the title of this: "Not the Best Place for Money." Ron, lead the way.
Yeah, I really like this, David. And here's what happens when the markets cycle, and occasionally the market cycles, and the stocks do far better than housing. And so all these, Wall Street analysts and these Wall Street proponents say, see, you should put your money in the stock market, not in the house. And so we're really, when we reflect this, there was a Bloomberg editorial. It was titled "Houses Are No Longer the Best Place for Your Money." And let me just clearly state how stupid this is. And I don't want to parse my words. And I'm not going to relitigate why owning a house is the very best thing you can do. I'm not going to come up and say, gosh, homeowners own 41 times the wealth of a renter. I don't want to say that. I'm not going to say, home ownership is a hedge against inflation. I'm not going to say that there's an inflection point. At some point, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, even in the worst scenario, owning a house becomes cheaper than renting because you have a 30-year fixed payment, unlike rent that goes up 5, 6, 7% a year. I'm not going to suggest any of that. I'm not going to say that future payment to your mortgage is paid in inflated dollars, which means less. I'm not going to say any of that. I'm not going to say forced savings. I'm not going to say the 15 things I've detailed repeatedly in different articles in different spaces about why home ownership is a superior choice. And I certainly won't even, David, bring up leverage, which most people don't buy, stocks on leverage. They don't go, $5 down to buy $100 in stock. But in a house, that's what you do. And so really an apples to apples comparison would be, what's the return on investment? I put $100 in the stock market. It has a 20% return. That's so good. Woohoo. I made 20 bucks. I put $100 in a house. It buys me a, 20x asset, right? Which is $2,000. I get a 5% return. Follow the math, right? I just got $100 back. What's better, $100 or 20? I know it's numbers, but what's better? Leverage gives you a better return. So it's just a totally idiotic premise to begin with. But David, I'm not going to bring any of that up because that's not the topic. My point here is, if you guys remember, I'll tell you, when I was a loan officer in the business in the late 90s, a long time ago, by the way, Douglas Andrews was really popular. And he wrote a book called Misfortunes. And he sold seminars and whole series and training and certifications. And then he did Misfortunes 101, which is like the field guide. And by the way, Misfortunes like 800 pages. It's a great, big, old, thick book, And, being a dutiful loan officer at the time, I went and studied it because back then we were trying to be, hey, I'm a loan officer. I'm a loan officer, but I'm really a financial planner that specializes in mortgages. So I studied Doug Andrews. And the whole idea was, look, money isn't the best place for houses aren't the best place for money. They're not a piggy bank. Your house is going to get its rate of return no matter how much your mortgage is. So take every penny out of your house and apply it to the stock market or whatever the investment you want, as long as it creates arbitrage. Meaning, if your interest rate on your house, let's say it stays 6.5%, if the stock market's returning 16%, the arbitrage is 10%. Go ahead and don't leave your money in the house. Go ahead and put your money in the stock market. After taxes, your real yield is about 7%. That's a win. Do that all day long and you get wealthier faster. So to this, this editorialist, who is a financial analyst of some sort, I think she might even be an academic, Allison Schrager, who said, gosh, houses aren't the best place for money. Well, notwithstanding my previous argument of why they are, notwithstanding that, it's not an either or choice. It's not like, okay, I'm going to buy $1 million house. I'm going to buy it for $1 million cash. And now my money's not in the market, because I can buy it for 10% down, 20% down, and my money's still in the market. So as an idiotic, like when you have a false premise, you get to a false conclusion. And when you create your own scorecard, it makes it appear as though you win the argument. And it's totally false. And Dave, I want to stop that rant. I'll turn it over because we're going to shorten these up a little bit. Too late, McKenna.
Too late. McKenna, we've given her the go ahead that whenever she feels like that Ron is on one of his rants, we've got that little Ron's rant drop down.
David, a year ago, we started this show. David, I have my own section called Ron's Rant, and we decided to get rid of it since I rant on every topic. We go, that's just like redundant. I just stop it.
No, those are some good thoughts. And I think you should almost, when you're talking about investments, typically the one with the highest ROI is the best investment. But I think a house should be considered something other than investment, because I think we've spent decades teaching people to view their home as an investment first and a home second, because that's not the way it was. A home wasn't looked at in the 60s and 70s or whatever date. It wasn't looked at as an investment first. It was looked at as a home first, and so that's, I think when you're looking at what investments are best, I think the home should be taken out of that conversation. It still is a fabulous investment, but it's different.
Yeah, I agree. The security, the quality of life, the way the foundation in which you're able to support your family, to launch your kids in the world from a secure base. There's no price to that. I totally agree.
Yeah. We've got some charts. Do you want to show those?
No, we got that. We already hit the topic. Let's go. We're gonna go fast.
Let's make up some time from our way over past due whatever on the from the gut. Foreclosures climbing.
I'm gonna try to do a mini rant here. I'm gonna reduce my rant down by half on this topic. So I've been outspoken. All these doomsday headlines. Oh my God, foreclosures are up 21%. Foreclosures are up 15%. Foreclosures are up 50%. And I've really claimed it nonsense because you know what? If you go from one foreclosure to two, you're up 100%. But if the average is 1,000, it's still insignificant. And that's really the condition we're in. Foreclosures are just a fraction of what they are historically. So to say they're up, yeah, they're up, but who cares? They're a fraction of what their historical norm is. So it's a totally bogus line. I mean, I said I wasn't going to rant, so I'm going to control myself here. Now, so that's been my position. I still say that position. That being said, to all you people out there that said, marry the house, date the rate, don't worry about it. Rates are coming down. And you totally screwed your client. Rates didn't come down. Instead, property values came down. Wages were stagnant. So now they don't qualify. They might have a late payment and all this date the house, marry the house, date the rate was totally false. You totally screwed your client. By the way, I should editorialize myself. I don't mean to say that to our audience. You did a great job. And so, McKenna, if you can cut that before we post this,
we're live, Ron, by the way.
Yeah, dang it. Well, I'm gonna try to control myself. I'm gonna try to control myself in the future then. Okay,
I'll get this ready.
Yeah, exactly. When I'm driving off the cliff, try to stop me, David. So my point is, so there is a tranche, not surprisingly, of houses that are at risk and have a higher elevated distress level. And those are new vintage 23, 24, 25, where we put them at their max, payment capacity and said, don't worry, on May 8th, the rates are going to drop 1%. Thank you, Mr. Yogi. And then, that's going to be the whole deal, right? And that didn't happen. And instead, prices fell, right? So now you're a homeowner and you can barely make your payment and your house isn't worth what you owe. And you're like, holy crap, I'm on the way out, right? And my damn loan officer who told me to, marry the house, date the rate has really abused me, which is a side note, David. So, but I want to acknowledge there is some distress in the market. That's my whole point. And especially in the FHA, VA sectors where you have a high loan to value, 97%, 100%. And so when you get inverted on value, that becomes a exponential problem. But here's the thing, David. When you look at that, oh my gosh, 21%. Oh dang, I'm concerned about that. But you know what that includes, David? It's like the student loans. Part of that is that we quit doing modifications by modification by modification, meaning these loans were already distressed, but we had done loan modifications, we had done forbearances, we had all these tools the previous administration had, and administrations, I should say, had implemented that allowed a homeowner that was under distress to live there for years and not make a payment. So what's really moved the number in the FHA world is that we're now going, nope, one loan modification is really probably enough. And I don't know about forbearance anymore. And the tools we used to use are no longer available to us. So what's happened, these loans were distressed all the time. But because we just quit collecting on them, we called, oh no, they're good. They're not negative. It's good. But once we said, nope, you got to start making a payment, they immediately flipped to distressed. I don't think that there's any more distressed properties today, other than recent vintage, more distressed today. We just flipped the light on where we didn't used to count it, and now we are. David, your thoughts?
Not really too many thoughts here. And I know our audience is typically people that are loan officers, maybe some real estate agents in there, but this is more of a consumer question. Because I know the mortgage industry pretty well, but the one side that I don't know that well is servicing. So I'm asking this almost as a homeowner, someone who's looking at a possible foreclosure. Do borrowers have more options than they realize before the whole kind of foreclosure process begins? And is it true that servicers would rather work out a solution than foreclose and take that home back?
Yes, yes, there are plenty of tools that a homeowner can utilize when they get into distress. And yes, most quality servicers, the default is, how can we help you work this out?
Right.
Really is the case, right? Number one servicer in America, Rocket, they are proactive to try to make sure they can work something out. Like they go well and beyond, right?
And what
That
does
being
that
said,
practically look like?
what does it practically look like? They proactively get a hold of the borrower, say, "Hey, look, you're late. We want to help you," and then they use whatever tools they can. Now, what the problem is, not the problem. The change is, David, the FHA has given us fewer tools. They've said,
Mhm.
"No, if a bad loan is a bad loan," and so you give them one shot. It's kind of restricted, and so there's fewer tools, honestly. But that being said, the servicers want to work it out. I honestly believe that. And David, we're going to cover this next week. I read a fascinating article yesterday about, you know, you may or may not be aware, on a Ginnie Mae loan, the servicer actually has to make the investor whole regardless of whether the consumer is making a payment. What that
Mm.
means is, if you have an FH loan and I'm servicing your loan and you don't make the payment, I still have to make remittance to the investor, the investors. So I still make your payment for you. I still make your insurance payment for you. And when we get into a distressed market where 20%, 30% of the houses of homeowners aren't making payments, if you're a servicer, you could be fronting billions of dollars, billions and billions and billions, right? And in the last time this happened, post 2008, we went into this massive refi market because we dropped rates to near zero, right? And so we had tons of liquidity, so the servicers could actually afford to make these payments in lieu of actually receiving payments. If that were to happen today, two things have happened. Servicing has moved from banks that have a ton of liquidity and can borrow for virtually zero money to IMBs that do not have the same liquidity, do not have the same asset base. And if we face an adverse market where home values really dropped and there was a recession, today's IMBs do not have the wherewithal, do not have the financial base to actually cover those payments to the investors. And we would be facing a huge, huge problem.
No further thoughts from me. Did you want to show the chart that we had on that one?
Nope, no need.
Image? No. Oh, okay.
Nope.
Kinda you've put all these graphics together for no reason.
And they're beautiful. Yeah.
Let's segue into boomers. What do you say?
This is another really interesting topic, and this was a Wall Street Journal article, feature article, and I was like, you know what? I think that the title of the article is "Boomers Were Supposed to Downsize; They're Buying Bigger Homes Instead." Really interesting,
Mm.
and and we can use let's make sure we use a graphic here, McKenna. You did such a good job on them. I don't want to cheat you. And maybe that will keep me contained. So here's the thing, historically, boomers, they only buy up. Historically, about 4% of them buy up, like, or let's not even call boomers, just retiring generations, a very small percent. In just a short couple 2 years, that's increased to 7%, and it's accelerating, which is really interesting. The next thing is, another interesting point, these retiring boomers own 42% of what's considered an expensive property, which is really surprising. And the thing is, and I love this quote. You can't see it because it's super tiny, but this guy's quote. Then they did a bunch of anecdotal kind of stories. Like, they featured like 6 people in this article, and the person featured said, "We'll downsize when they plant me 6 feet under into the ground." Which is,
Hmm.
it's such a good statement. Yeah, I'll downsize when I'm dead. I'll go 6 feet by 5 feet or whatever it is, but or 8 feet by whatever the size is. It depends on your size, I guess. But the thing is, they're upsizing for all sorts of reasons. One, instead of buying their kids a house or helping them pay rent, they're buying a house that can allow the kids to live with them, and that's really a device for grandma and grandpa to be able to see the grandkids, right? Okay, so heck, you're having financial problems. That's so good. Come and live in the casita. Well, now I get to see you all the time. It's such a clever device. These silver-haired foxes are figuring out. And the other thing is, they're building an opus to their life. They're going, I worked my whole life. I've made a ton of money. The stock market's treating me well. I've made a lot of my real estate. This is my opus. I'm gonna have a beautiful kitchen. I'm gonna have a beautiful, I'm gonna do a hobby, little, farm, but a hobby yard, and I'm going to have a shop in the back, and I'm going to have a beautiful hot tub and a sauna. This is like expresses the success of my life, and they're enjoying it, and they're really enjoying it. And we're going to see this trend continue. I think boomers and retiring generations that have a lot of wealth are going to continue upsizing. And it's a fascinating thing because we don't think about it. And it may be a sector that we might want to look at to prospect. Anyway, David, what's your thought on this?
I think about inventory. That's got to be a good thing for first-time buyers, right? Because you would think, people of retirement age who are downsizing are going into a smaller home, which is equivalent typically to a cheaper, less expensive home, which kind of becomes competition for first-time buyers or below average home size buyers. So this statistic has to be a good thing for inventory, right? Because that's where the biggest
Yep.
challenge in inventory is.
That is a great insight, David. The move-up buyer frees up the lower rung house, which is
Right.
critical. And by the way, and the argument right now is, the lock-in effect has blocked that, and that's what's really stifled the first-time homebuyer rung. But as Barry B would say, he would challenge that. 40% of people own their house outright. They don't care about their interest rate. They own it outright. They're going to buy their next house with cash. So the argument kind of loses merit right there. But you're 100% right. If these boomers move up, the house they're moving from becomes the probably second rung for not first-time home buyers, but second-time home buyers. And then those first home buyers that go to second-time home buyers, their rung opens up to the next first-time home buyer. That's the trickle-up theory, and you're explaining it perfectly.
Yeah. You want to segue into our rapid fire topics where we're talking about your pipeline?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's
do
go.
it. That's our
all right.
segue. Love this picture,
These are
McKenna. Good job.
Glad
And
on.
let's get to the visual here. It's and this comes, by the way, there was a just gigantic, great study, and it was from the let me get the exact study because I don't want to garble it. It was the Joint Center for Housing Studies of Harvard University, and it's the State of the Nation's Housing 2026. This is a great, great study. I think it was like a 90 pages of charts like this. Super good. McKenna, if we can put the link to that below. If you're a mortgage or real estate professional, it's worth your read so that you're super educated on it. There is so much good data in here, so many good arguments. By the way, both hard and soft, meaning hard arguments based on the data, soft inference based on academics trying to infer what happened. And here's the thing, I only picked one slice out of it. As a matter of fact, I actually did, David, quite a few LinkedIn posts on the entire report. I just chopped it up so it wasn't super long. And this first one is, look, the challenge is that people just aren't moving. And if you marry that with, they have low confidence, so they don't want to move. That's what this is showing, low confidence, and that's really eroding their ability to move. And historically, by the way, David, 20% of the people in the United States migrate or move, 20%. That number is down to 11%, which is anemic. And when that number gets so low, that's why we're seeing so few purchase transactions. And McKenna, if you go to the next chart. And here's the next thing. So we're talking about migration, right? And this is talking about how different areas of the country are migrating. Don't worry about regionally, whether it's Northwest, the South, or the West. Don't worry about the Midwest. Don't worry. What you really look at is just look at how the gray bar is far smaller than the other bar. That means that last year has a lot fewer people migrating than previous years. That's all you need to know. It doesn't matter whether they have net positive or net negative. What this shows is that people are moving to the South, but ignore that. Overall movement is way down. And that migration, that internal migration, meaning U.S. citizens migrating, has really been stymied, and that stymiedness is why we have less transactions. And so there's a couple of things for this. And do we have one more chart if I remember right, McKenna?
I think so.
Yeah. And the reason why there's a couple of reasons. First is household formation is just slowing. And I think the number is like significant. We only formed like 1.1 million new households last year, and that's anemic. That is way below the average. I think the average, the most recent lowest mean was 2 million. So it's a fraction. We're not creating new households, which means more people are just living at home. Kids graduate from college, they move home with their parents. They're not creating a new household. They just live there longer. That's the first problem. The next thing is actual net migration. We have an out migration on immigration, international immigration. That also is lowering demand. And the third thing is, which is a really big thing, last year we created the fewest jobs in in decades. And the number of new jobs created, the total net new jobs was 116,000. New jobs, as Mike Simonson says, who he's brilliant, I love him, as he says, look, uh, uh, mobility in employment drives housing. Right? We get new jobs, we get paid more, we have to transfer, we have to move, right? So when I change jobs, it oftentimes triggers a new house, buying a new house. And that's not happening. Only 116,000 jobs out of last year. That does not create, home ownership mobility, and people now are staying put. It's a no fire, no hire economy, and that is really stifling, new purchase transactions. David, how does that strike you?
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about the mobility of jobs and the transient life of people here and how much that actually influenced the housing market. But after just listening to you over the last 3 minutes, it kind of stuck out to me. So that's a big number that kind of plays into housing that I haven't really paid attention to as much as I think I should have.
Yeah, there's a couple of core ingredients that you can kind of watch as a weather vane.
Sure.
Um, you know, Household formation, new job creation, right?
Hmm.
Consumer sentiment. All these things are ingredients that you can watch to see what future demand will be. And right now, they're very much at low levels. And so there's a little insight there if you want to follow them.
All right, this is rapid fire. So let's move on to our next rapid fire. The West beats the headline. Is that right?
Yeah,
That's right.
once again, this is another good first slide, McKenna. But this is from a HousingWire piece, and the argument is if you just look at the data, it looks like the West is lagging. Like, gosh, the South is booming, the Northeast is booming. It's hot and cold in different areas, but the West certainly looks like it's a laggard. If you graded the four main regions, the West is way behind. But the key here is look past the headline and really look at the numbers. And the thing is, the trend on the West is really strong. And the trend is that inventory is down 2.8% year over year. Pending sales are up 8.4%. Price cuts have fallen from 8.1% to 6.3%. All these are signals that the market is starting to really get healthier in the West and it's starting to pick up. And that's an important thing. One other thing that I'll note, I want to say if you look at the four quadrants of the country, the South accounts for 52% of all sales. So what the South does really has the most impact, just so you know. I mean, as the South goes right now, as our data goes. And so you really got to localize your data, but know that the West is not distressed. It's actually trending up and it's really starting to accelerate, and look for maybe really that positive trend to continue. Any thoughts on that, David?
Um, eh, the biggest thought that I have is I think I'm guilty again of paying attention too much to headlines because if we're especially talking about California, not to get political, but a lot of people are leaving California due to the political environment, taxes, and all of that stuff. And I will raise my hand and say I'm guilty to the point to where that surprised me what you just said.
Yeah, it's just an interesting trend, and it just it's so critical. The point, I think, the bigger point is just don't listen to headline numbers, because what's happening right in front of you in your own territory is the most important thing. And they're very different, very divergent by area, even micro areas. Even you can't say Florida; you have to actually say Sarasota or Miami or South Beach. You have to be really specific and just not accept the national numbers. And you have to then educate your customers. Look, that national number is scary, but let's look at locally what we're looking at, and that's really important for success today.
Speaking of paying attention to your local news and what's going on locally. If you see my t-shirt, it says your local loan officer at your service, which can be found at, go ahead and show them, McKenna, which
This
can
is
be
great.
found at by scanning that QR code or going to littlenessie.com/store. It literally says your local loan officer at your service, designed in a garage mechanic style design. And there's probably about 15 different t-shirts on there, all loan officer centric. Doesn't matter what company you're from, what area you're in. Got some fun t-shirts in there. So good segue, Ron.
David, did you make a bet with somebody on how many t-shirts you could sell this week?
Yeah, your brother.
Well, then quit
I'm
giving
guessing
them away for free.
Yeah, I'm guessing he's not watching today because we haven't had any comments from him. So
He's on a plane, so he's on
Gotcha.
radio blackout.
Gotcha.
Let's
You want
hit
to
the
talk
next
about
topic.
Japan?
Well, Japanese builders. And we've covered this before, so I'm not going to go super deep, but we talked about a few months ago how Japanese builders are quietly taking over massive market share in new home construction here. And as a matter of fact, they had peaked at 5% last year, which is really significant. And they had done it through massive acquisitions. And let's look at the visuals if we can, McKenna.
Let's explain this graphic, Ron, before we get
Yeah,
into
so
it,
this is
'cause
really
there's a
busy,
whole
and
lot
don't
on
worry
there.
about trying to squint your eyes and read it. Here's the thing. If you look at the bottom axis, it lists the builders in the United States, and the far left is D.R. Horton, who has the most market share. You can see they built somewhere around 90,000 homes last year. It was actually around 87,000 to be specific. And as you go to the right, you list the builders, the top, I think it's 50 builders here. So that's the bottom axis. Just know it's builders rank from top to bottom. And then the yellow line that you see, that is actually, it is one of the Japanese builders, all their acquisitions. So let's say there's 3 Japanese builders. Let's not worry about what their names are because I can't pronounce them anyway. But let's say it's Suzuki House, right? All those yellows are acquisitions from last year. That's how many top, so they bought 1, 2, 3, 4 of the top 25 builders in the United States. And then if you look, the next one was Sumitomo, right? In red, they bought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 of the top 30 builders last year. And then if you look at now the, I don't even know how to say that, but Suzuki, whatever, they bought, the 5th largest builder. And so you see this consolidation, and now that consolidation, they have about 6.5% market share. Just quietly, they're building market share, and it's something to pay attention to. Now, McKenna, do we have more, I think, visuals on this? And so most recently, Daiwa bought, I forget the name of the company they just bought. They bought another large lender, a top 10 builder. This is where the builder builds, right? And I think it was Stanley Homes or something like that, or their subsidiary Stanley Homes bought this other builder, and so they got into more market share. And this is something to pay attention to. Now, long term, the Japanese builders are coming to the United States because Japanese population is collapsing. It's rapidly decreasing, and so there's no place to build homes. They have a glut of homes. When your population shrinks, you start to get empty houses, and they go, well, our job is building. Let's go someplace where the population is expanding and people can actually pay for the houses. So they've come to the United States. The next thing you have to understand is Japanese builders have an exceptionally low cost of funds because they're getting financed by the yen, and the yen trade in the United States is a very low cost of funds. As you know, that's the whole carry trade. They can borrow for very little bit and bring it to the United States, and they have unlimited access to liquidity, and so they have a lot of financing. The other thing is, Japanese builders, they have a 100 or 200 year time horizon. That's their strategy. Where American builders, much of them public companies, it's quarter to quarter to quarter. So an American company is going to make quarterly decisions, where a Japanese company is going to make a 100-year decision, and so they don't sweat the ups and downs, the recessions. They don't care about any of that stuff, right? And then finally, Japanese brings their excellence in manufacturing and process engineering. And so, that they've really proven that. And so they're going to bring that to home building here. And you're probably going to get overall, possibly a better quality house at a lower price. Now, a better quality Datsun, then is good unless you happen to like Mercedes, and then a Datsun doesn't fit for you. A top quality vehicle that's great, reliable, but it's not necessarily the most beautiful thing ever built. But the Japanese are really proficient, and they're going to keep getting market share. They're not slowing down. They're going to keep buying American builders. Now, the fascinating thing, David, is when the Japanese builder buys an American, new home company, they keep the leadership, they keep all the processes in place. They're just slowly trying to replace the under the foundation stuff, and I think we'll slowly see that expressed above the ground. But what's your take on this, David?
Not much to add, but just when companies consolidate, when they acquire, I think it's true for every industry. I think the biggest question is, does this help the consumer? Because when companies consolidate, I think they create efficiencies, but just like you said, Ron, it can reduce the customer choice. So my question is, and the government quite often puts a stop to that, to monopolies and that kind of thing. So I'm a little bit torn on what I think about it, because it can create efficiencies, it can bring costs down, but or hopefully bring costs down. But yeah, you're getting rid of competition. So I don't know how I feel about it. I honestly don't. I'd need you to maybe educate me on what the positive sides are and the negative sides.
And I think it's positive for the consumer. I think it might be negative for American, enterprise, because you're taking American companies out. So, but
What if it was a American company that was buying it replaced these Japanese companies, but it was an American company? Would your stance still be the same?
Well, David, it's the same. You're hitting this perfectly. We covered last week, if you recall, the consolidation in the new home construction market, which is now stands around 45%. The top 10 builders control 45% of the market, and in some of
Right.
the hottest markets where they're building, they control 85% of the new home market. And that's a change over the last 20 years, when the top 10 builders controlled like 7%. So we've seen this march towards this consolidation, where we've had an extremely fragmented, new home construction, existence, and now we have not so fragmented, really consolidated. Is it good for the consumer or bad for the consumer? It's like, David, do you need 1,000 choices when you go to the jelly aisle in the store, or is 100 good enough? Because we've consolidated, but we still have tons of regional and local builders. You still have plenty of choice, but the power of the scale for the top builders, I mean, that's how Lennar is, and DR Horton. That's how they're offering 2.99%, interest rates. They're buying down the rate for people, is because they have this massive scale, and they can give some added benefit. And so if you're a consumer that needs that, you buy with them. If you're a consumer that maybe wants a nicer custom home, you buy with a regional builder or a custom builder. And so right now, I think the consolidation isn't something to be concerned about, because there's still plenty of flavors of jelly on the shelf.
We've got our last topic is a fun one. What houses are wearing these days? Um, and McKenna's got a good image for this topic overview. This is our final rapid fire topic, and then we've got one short tech tip. But Ron, what in the world are we talking about here? All I can see is flamingos.
And we virtually caught up. And but let's go straight to the money shot. Let's go to the map of America, a map of the United States. And this is the whole thing. If you look at this, this is color coded by the type of exterior material you have by region. And when I say the type, it typically, you can look at this, but it's like in that region, it's 77, 80% of the homes have the same exterior. So in California, on the whole West Coast, it's stucco. In Texas, it's brick. Going back to Florida, it's stucco. In the middle of the country, there in the Midwest, it's fiber cement. And up in the Northeast and the Great Lakes area, it's vinyl. So, David, you and I and McKenna were talking about this yesterday. McKenna, come on so we can talk about this. It's partially weather, it's partially economic. What's cheaper? It's a mixture. It's a little bit of taste. what do you guys think? Like, what kind of house do you want to live in? And what's your like, McKenna? What do you think about this when you see this? Do you care? Is it kind of interesting? Does it make you want to live to a place that has stucco homes?
I did just learn what stucco is, and I'm still very, very confused on what this house is that I am currently
Well,
in.
McKenna,
So,
our California house was stucco.
yeah, I know what stucco is. What is this house currently?
Oh, it's hardy board. It's a type of siding, but it's not vinyl.
Does it look like vinyl?
No,
Is it wood siding, David?
it's a composite, so it's hardy board.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure that's the right term. Yeah.
Yeah. And so interesting. Does that fall in the role of it falls into like that fiber cement?
Yeah. I think I've got a more interesting question. Can I pose that?
Yeah. Please.
What exterior curb appeal trends were popular in the let's say 70s or 80s that we laugh at now? And I've got a follow-up question to that. What's that?
Is it metal siding?
Metal siding.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've experienced. Oh yeah, our Virginia house had metal siding. That's right. Forgot about that.
Now,
Oh, that was
what the hell
terrible.
Is that?
I painted that whole house myself, and I hated that metal siding. It was awful. What else?
All right, new thing to look up.
Colors, maybe?
What? Wood siding?
Colors?
Like wood plank? What?
Colors. Color choices in the 1980s?
Oh, yeah. That was probably like orange and green and weird stuff.
Yeah.
What
So
did
here's
you
my
say?
follow-up question. Orange.
Orange.
It's like shag carpet. You know.
Yeah. So here's my follow-up question.
You don't live in the 70s. You didn't see the green or the orange shag carpet, the brown. Super, super gnarly. And then the popcorn ceilings. Wonderful
wood
time
paneling.
But I almost had to beat myself there. I was going shag carpet, popcorn ceilings, and group sex. But I caught myself, so don't worry. I'm not going to get banned.
Wait.
No, I want you to say it. I want to hear you say it, Ron.
Yeah. Melinda says paneling. I'm assuming you mean wood paneling on the inside instead of drywall, Belinda?
I said wood paneling.
Wood paneling was horrible. I mean, just absolutely horrible. But it matched think about it. You had big old stone fireplace and shag carpet and wood paneling and popcorn ceilings. You were living large. You had the big Cadillac out front,
Yeah. Follow-up question, and we'll end with this. What styles today do you think will be laughable in 20 or 30 years?
It's so interesting because David,
farmhouse,
that fiber, cement thing has gone from like 0% to like 15% in 2 years, and is growing quickly. And especially you start thinking about 3D homes, that's going to be the future. And it's not going to look like you see today, like globs of concrete. It's going to be kind of elegant, and we're going to go back and look like, siding? What kind of siding? Who had siding? Stucco? Who had stucco? Everybody has that fiber cement from a 3D, construction kind of thing. I think 50 years from now, that in a manufactured home. What are you laughing about? Am I missing?
Yeah, McKenna and I pay attention to the comments, and your wife just banger. She's poking fun at me. McKenna, go ahead and show Belinda's comment, because she just ripped it on me. Here we go.
Yes. I love you, Belinda.
I hate you, Belinda.
That's a true story. Yeah. All right, we did a good job of this. Let's go. We're almost caught up. We're a little behind. We got one more topic.
A little behind. Let's roll into our tech tip. Let's hit that bumper. I'm still mad at Belinda.
All right, I love our little tech tip. Today's really simple. It's and we're going to talk about the one thing, but the thing is about co-work or about embedding apps into your AI universe, or vice versa, putting your AI tool into your apps. And so if we go to the next screen, this will kind of show it. The idea here is you can unleash ChatGPT into your inbox. And I don't care that we're talking about email, but it could be into anything, right? And of course, Gemini always had access. It's easy to hook Gemini up because it's a Google native for Gmail. But you can connect your ChatGPT, and then you can connect, as it says, all these apps into the same environment. And now it's called Co-work, where your AI tool has access to all your stuff and manages your life for you. Now, you have to build up really tight security walls. You have to give it rules, and you have to trust that you can give it access. And if so, it can become really, really bright. And David, we were talking about yesterday, I forget, it was Claude, put Claude clicks. And so Claude now, if you put it into your desktop, it will track what you're doing with your mouse and what environments you're in, what software, what online sites you're on. It will learn what you're doing. It will say, David, I understand what you're doing here. Would you like me to take over this task from now on? And then you can kind of supervise it for a little bit to get comfortable with it. And then once it learns it, it can do it forever, whether it's paying your mortgage or it's doing a spreadsheet or David doing payroll. It will learn it super fast, track what you're doing, and go, David, give me the rings. I can do it. And that's just where we're going. And it's just good. It's to point out, it's kind of fun to play with. David, do you have any type of AI tools embedded into any other environment right now?
I'm glad you asked. Ron and I have been working on a new product that I know we've talked about on this podcast for months and months and months, but it's actually, we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And Ron has, in the last 2 months or so, integrated his AI tools with his personal tools, as in his Gmail and others. And for the last 2 weeks, my mind has been blown at the capability of it, to the point where I'm going to start integrating that. I'm surprised I haven't done that sooner. But I think the real question is I 100% plan on doing it with my business email and my personal email. Probably the biggest thing I would have it help me with that's not really business related is just cleaning out just the junk that comes in, but automating so many responses and tying in setting calendar appointments and setting up tasks and so on. But when you ask me that, Ron, I think the people that are most likely to be a serial killer are the ones that will say, never will I integrate ChatGPT or any other AI system into their personal email. McKenna probably will never. So that's my first sign that my daughter is a potential serial. I don't want to say that word again because it might get me flagged. So look at that look she's
Yeah,
given me.
we're gonna, McKenna, we're gonna get your riff on this, which could be a rant. Get ready for the button, David. I line people up. There's AI evangelist like me. There's AI curious like most of the world, and then there's AI atheist like McKenna. Is kind of how you line it up. But David, like you can put your choice of AI tool embedded into Excel, and you no longer have to do any work in Excel. You just talk to say ChatGPT, go, this is what I want. Can you figure it out? And it does it, and you magically watch it. You can put your AI tool into PowerPoint, and it now will build. You just talk to it. Here's what I want, and if you connect it to your say if you have your OneDrive or your Google Drive, you can connect it to it and go, hey, I want you to build a presentation. The materials in this folder, and it will do it, which is great. David, you can in same ways you can embed Claude into Canva and go, hey, I want to create, this kind of image, and you can talk to it and go, no, I want it purple, that shade, I got to do this, and it will create it for you. There's almost nothing now that you can't embed a frontier AI model into, and then it becomes a vibe thing, a speak thing versus a press button things. And then one other tip I would just say for AI, the other thing you can do, which becomes exponential, is you can put one AI tool in charge of your other AI tools. So where you want to choose which one has superpowers, you just put one in charge, and you go, hey, Claude, ChatGPT is better at this. Just direct ChatGPT through a connection, which starts to be really good. McKenna, I know you're chomping at the bit because you can't wait to do this. What kind of AI tool would you embed in any type of your environments?
I just sent McKenna. McKenna, do you want me to go for a second? Because I just sent McKenna something to actually show on the screen. Um,
Yes, I can do that. Hold on.
yeah. So I just saw a post this morning on social media. I think it was Facebook. It was someone that I used to work with at a different company, and he showed a AI produced flyer, and his point was every person that ever creates a flyer that's now using AI to do it, they all look identical and they're not necessarily good. And that I think I said this at the beginning of the show where the creative side is where I have for me a bit of a mental block, not complete mental block, but the biggest mental block for me with AI that I've seen it to yet do an incredible job with. Now, there are some exceptions. I used the AI Lego video trailer, about 6 months ago. That was phenomenal. But you're just your everyday. The people that produce that AI Lego video are obviously professionals. They know what they're doing. They know how to tell a story. They know how to use these tools. But just your everyday person that's now thinking that they're a graphic designer or a video professional because they use these AI tools. It's getting to the point where we've talked about just AI slop over and over and over again. And where when you are using these tools, but you're not intentional or you have zero knowledge or just a little bit knowledge of what you're trying to do, and I'm probably more critical on the creative side because that's the world I come from. Ron, you might be more critical on it on the data side because you've got a very data centric mind. But when I saw that post this morning, I created this image using ChatGPT actually, but it shows the difference between professionals who typically professional. McKenna, make that a little bit larger, please, so you can kind of read it. Professionals in the creative world who will typically use Photoshop or Illustrator. And then you've got the people that came along 5, 6, 7 years ago that started to use Canva because it's an easy tool, but they're not necessarily professionals. And now you've got ChatGPT that can attempt to do the same things that the professionals did. And that's your representation of each and every one. That was just a funny image that I wanted to show real quick that has a larger point, but I'll leave it at that. McKenna, any thoughts? And Ron doesn't look very happy with my response there.
To
No, I'm good.
Ron's
I
to
can't wait.
answer Ron's question about what apps or anything that I would integrate with AI, none.
Not surprised at that.
Do you watch Netflix by any chance?
I occasionally, yeah.
Yeah.
What and if you were to watch any streaming service, what do you watch?
Typically Crunchyroll.
I don't even know what that is. That
It's
sounds
an
similar to Cheetos.
anime streaming site.
But all the customer interface that you deal with streaming services everywhere is AI driven. I mean, you're you're a user of it. You just don't know.
Customer
I'm not sure if you
interface.
can say those are AI driven, Ron. Not quite yet.
Netflix is like one of the top 5 AI companies in the world, David. How do you think they pick what movie you should watch last? What comes up in your screen? It's
Are you
1000%
talk
AI driven.
you're talking about just the algorithm and what they suggest to you?
100%. It's 100% AI. They're tracking you across multiple platforms. They give you suggestions. They're trying to learn because they have now whatever it is, 12 million offerings on their website. They try to get to what's relevant to you. They use AI extensively.
I
Well,
don't
sure, but tracking and algorithms have existed way before AI became a thing, 4 years ago. Well, before it became a mainstream thing, tracking and algorithms were a thing way before that, but you're saying it's now extended way past that to where it's dominant in AI?
Well, LLMs, David, are only an advanced form of logarithms. I mean, that's all it is,
Okay,
right? It's just,
that's true.
I mean, so yeah, I mean, yeah, point well taken, but that's exactly what AI is today. But the point is, you interacted with it all the time. You this are at the user end of it, not in control of it.
I don't think I have ever watched a suggested for you thing on any streaming service. I get all of my recommendations from TikTok.
And how do you think those TikTok feeds get to you?
Algorithms.
Non-AI algorithms.
Non-AI algorithms.
The point is, we AI touches us probably 75% of the day. It's just, are we at the end? Are we at the one side of it where it controls us, or are we on the other side where we control it? That's my only point. And David, the thing I was not frowning about when you're talking about, AI for creating images or whatever, it goes back to, look, do you use a stock image from Google Images? And if so, yeah, it all looks the same. But, if I get past the stock image, the default, and I actually express myself, like, let's say I want to get an image that says conflict at work, and I go, hey, create 2 elephants in a food fight. You're not going to go that. I mean, you're going to go, oh, that's weird. Where did that come from? But you can express yourself anyway. And I'm not necessarily trying to argue, although I'm an evangelist. It all depends on how you use the tool.
Yeah. Point taken. And McKenna, make a side note that we need to ban Belinda Stowers from all of our channels for making that snarky comment.
Absolutely not. Bring her on the podcast. Next guest.
There you go. Hey, one more time. This t-shirt, your local loan officer at your service. We've got those available and many more, about a dozen more. At the QR code takes you directly to that t-shirt. The URL underneath it takes you to all the t-shirts. So thanks for joining us. We had fun this time. We went a little bit over as we normally do. But happy hour to you, Ron. We started with the cheers. We'll end with the cheers. And great podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and notifications bell and all that good stuff. But thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, David. Thank you, McKenna. Thank you, everybody.